Alright, we're going to start a knife, making it for a bubblehead. Another former submarine sailor. We wanted it out of carbon steel. This is 1095, 1.5 inch thick. And we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, holes are drilled. The next thing I want to do is put my maker's mark up here, and we'll take care of that. Maybe reasonably straight. And we've got a maker's mark. Alright, the scales are clamped up. The excess fiberglass is dripping out. That'll firm up in an hour, but I'll leave it clamped overnight. Let the fiberglass cure for about 24 hours before I do anything with it. Next up is the heat treat. pretty much it for the grinding. Still need to buff it out a little bit. But next we will do the handles. Attach those. There are several ways to drill and attach scales. This is one way. This works for me. Your mileage may vary. I'll show you how I do it. I clamp one side with a pair of vice grips. Just mark the holes with the drill. Then do the other side, and then I put the table up, the work table up, and then drill all the way through. Next I want to get ready to cut the pins. I'm using a bronze welding or a brazing rod. It's cheaper than buying brass stock. But all the pin material that you get comes very smooth, and I want to rough it up a little bit so that when I epoxy it in place, it stays there. And here's a simple trick to roughing it up. Here's a piece of 50 grit sandpaper. Hold it on there and pull the trigger. With all of the pins cut, one end pointed to make it easier to push the pin in. They're all roughed up. Then I take the scales and pin them together. I'm just using 3 pins to pin them together. As you can see, the front edge is not very even. That's why we pin them together now and even things up. Okay, I've gone through a bunch of different belts, as you can see, finishing up with a 1000 grit silicone carbide belt. Next step is to make a sheath, and then we'll buff everything up and we'll be back. And I've got the sheath pattern drawn on here. I'm going to do a pouch type sheath, and I know the iris on the camera is open fairly wide, but it is getting dark, so that's why I've got the lantern. It's a nice night. There's the sheath. And I think we'll continue when it gets a little bit lighter. Decided to put the stamp down here because when I wet form the leather, I'd probably get rid of a lot of the detail in it if this works. So got the dolphins, just a piece of aluminum plate and a couple of C-clamps, and we should be ready. Alright, let's see what that looks like. It came out pretty good. Need to use a wider plate. I've got the edges of the plate on here, but overall I'm pleased with that, how it came out. Next step, I'm going to use some contact cement and glue the welt, and along this edge, glue it up. I'm not going to bore you with how that looks. And then after it's all glued together, we'll even things up and mark it for stitching. Alright, the sheath is glued together. I've evened it up using the grinder inside, just with the contact wheel. And now we mark it for stitching. The way I do that is I just use a stitching groover. It just makes a little groove, as the name implies. Right there, and then a stitching wheel, and this has little points on it, and it just marks it so you're evenly spaced. You can use a kitchen fork if you want, whatever works for you. And now, and I won't bore you with this process, I just go to the drill press, draw out these holes, then I'm going to use some artificial sinew to sew it up, and be back when that's done. Alright, the sheath is sewn up and touched up the edges and put some more dye on it, and then I use just a spray bottle to wet the inside of the sheath. I want to work the top area here. I don't want to work down here where I've already got it stamped. So, taking the knife, covered it with plastic wrap, and then just wrap it in electrical tape. However you want to do that, plastic bag will work. Put that in, get a nice snug fit, and then start working it with your thumbs while it's wet, and just work that for a few minutes, and you'll have a nice snug fit for the knife. Over time, it may loosen up, and all you have to do is wet the inside of the sheath and do this all over again. The knife and the sheath are finished. Particulars on the knife are, it is 1095 steel, 1.5 wide, 3/32 thick. It's got a heavyweight blue cotton, closest thing I could get to canvas. Crash Carta scales with brass pins and red liner. And the sheath, just a pouch sheath, but it does have the submarine warfare insignia stamped on it for a fellow brother of the fin. Fits nice and snug, won't go anywhere. I think it's sharp. Hope you enjoy it, my friend. And for everybody else, thanks for watching.